Hey guys, Rebel95, coming live from Look County Prison Cell. Another car video for you, but I'm not that mad about it because it's actually going to be a fun episode. This is one that has two characters that I know very well from two franchises that I know very well. That matchup being Giratina from Pokemon versus Janemba from Dragon Ball Z. The connections will become a little more apparent once I go into the, details, but let's just start it off because this one's good. As you guys know, I like to use Pokemon as sort of a palate cleanser of sorts, so this is something I'm not that upset doing. So starting with Giratina, first of all, Giratina's got two different forms. It's got its altered form and its origin form. Its altered form has higher defenses, and its origin form has a higher attack. Right? This could come into play when you consider being able to tank certain hits or being able to dish out more damage. The thing is, if we're going by the lore of the Pokemon world, as well as the movies and just a general idea of a Giratina and not necessarily the Giratina from Platinum, for instance, this would be pretty much, this is what we're going to end up using. And I guess in that lore, its origin form is only obtainable with an in-game item, or if it's in the, what's it called, the reverse world, or there's another name for the distortion world. That's what it's called, the distortion world. So the first thing is Giratina, being one of the three children of Arceus amongst Palkia and Dialga, is the ruler of this distortion world, which is a world parallel to our own. In the anime or the movie, I believe it was a world opposite of our own. But in game, it's just sort of like a world where the laws of our reality don't apply. So, but either way, there's going to be some features to it that play into this fight. But generally, Giratina has the ability to open up portals of this world, transfer in and out of this world, etc., etc. But just starting with the basics, Giratina is a Ghost Dragon type, which means that it has an immunity to the elemental attack, it has an immunity to fighting and normal type moves, which could come into play in this fight, as well as a resistance to several types, among them being the elemental attacks, so grass, fire, water, electric. Whether or not that comes into play, I don't think so. As well as its weaknesses, I don't really think come into play into this fight, because its weaknesses are Fairy, Ghost, Dark, and I think Dragon, actually. So, funny enough. So, yeah, I don't think we're going to have to worry too much about stats here, but I think the Ghost typing would probably be the most relevant thing to come into play here. And it, as a Dragon type, it has access to a couple of Dragon moves in its primary moveset. I believe it's Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw. And its Ghost type moves have things like Hex, Shadow Claw, its signature attack Shadow Force, where it, or Phantom Force rather, where it disappears into another plane of existence and then reappears to attack. So it just basically opens up a portal, which, like I said, it's capable of doing. Probably opening up a portal to the whoops, dropped my phone. Probably opening up a portal to the distortion world, if I had to guess, but other Pokemon are capable of using Phantom Force, so it's possible that it is just disappearing and then reappearing as it's a ghost. And then Shadow Sneak, which lets it just weaponize its shadow so they can attack you with a shadow from the ground, basically. It's got access to other moves like Earth Power, where it actually turns, erupts the ground beneath you. It's got Aura Sphere, which is its own fighting energy conserved into an attack, which never misses. But that's basically the rundown here. There are some more important things to note, but I think that's going to come into play more so in the matchup, in the analysis side. When I'm going into the the power set and everything, I think that's probably more, that's the interactions are probably left best for that. Janemba. So Janemba was a demon in King Yemma's employ, I suppose. That, what was it? It was a soul cleaning machine, I think, where it would actually like physically clean the negative energy off of the souls that was overloaded, and this child demon was caught in the explosion and turned into Janemba after absorbing all of the negative energy. Janemba, as we know him, or it, I suppose, is an incredibly powerful being capable of altering reality and matter. And with this ability, was able to completely, like, transform hell into his own image, right? Putting barriers and spikes and everything everywhere that he wanted. And essentially transporting all of hell's residents onto the regular world so that all the rest of the Z fighters had to fight them. With this ability to control reality, he also has the ability to manipulate, or to fight within other dimensions, I guess would be the way to put it. He can open up portals to transfer through, to transfer other things through. He's in his regular form, he punches through portals and his fist appears near you. He's taken attacks and put them, he's like opened up portals to absorb attacks and then launch them back at others. He's teleported his whole body through portals. He's actually kind of demolecularized his body, sort of, and then reformed it in another location. He can stretch his arms. He can to a degree, he can transfer other items to become other items. So, like, he turned a club into a sword, but the sword broke and turned back into a club. So it seems there's a limit to it. But yeah, and then there's only a couple of weaknesses it has, I guess. One would be the ability to, basically the Stardust Breaker, where it, there's some debate amongst the actual translation of it. I think in the dub they said it does more damage if it attacks someone with an evil heart, but in the official translation of it, I think it says it just destroys, like, everything of the opponent, like, of who it hits. But anyway, point is, that's relevant because Janemba actually has a crazy fucking healing factor. We don't know if it's to the point of, like, Cell or Boo, where they have to be, like, completely deatomized, or, funny enough, like Boo, have to have the evilness within them destroyed. But, yeah, I would think that, I think that if we're basing the Stardust, because, what, in the Gogeta versus Vegito fight, they used the Stardust Breaker, right? But Vegito won. Okay, never mind then. So, yeah, if we, but yeah, also there's two different forms. One of them's a giant form, and the other one's a more sleek, weird, reptile-looking thing form. But yeah, I think that about covers, then the typical DBZ thing, energy blasts, etc., etc. But its other weakness that I forgot to mention is weird. It's being insulted. Both Janemba and all of its constructs are weak to any time that they get insulted, to where they just shatter. The constructs don't repair themselves, but Janemba, having this healing factor, is only temporarily stunned by this due to the fact that Janemba's body shatters and then just repairs itself. But yeah, it's, I don't know, weird. So this matchup, okay. Here's what I was saying, all the interactions are going to come into play. So I didn't really go over, it doesn't seem like I made it look that great, for the analysis, but trust me, there's a lot going on here. So, one thing to keep in note is that any, like, fighting, any, like, physical attack, basically, that Janemba's capable of doing, is probably going to be, not hit Giratina due to it being a ghost type. So if Janemba tries to, like, punch or kick him, or Giratina, then it's not going to work. So that's the first thing. The ability to manipulate matter and reality seems to be as far as the environment's concerned. Otherwise, why wouldn't Janemba just, like, change Goku into something else, right? So there's that. Now, as far as dimensions are concerned, we have to take into consideration the distortion world, right? Because, yeah, Janemba was capable of, turning the, turning hell into its own domain, right? However, in the Giratina movie, or the Shaman movie, I guess, technically, Giratina was able to drag, I think it was Dialga. Might have been Palkia and Dialga, actually. Point is, Palkia and Dialga, we've seen, are not able to use their abilities to manipulate space and time, two fundamental forces of reality, while in the distortion world, because the laws of space and time and reality don't apply in the distortion world, right? Or at least our laws of reality don't apply there. Giratina kind of determines them. So, we know that if Giratina were to transport Janemba to the distortion world, it would stand to reason that, at the very least, the dimensional attacks and whatnot, the opening up wormholes and everything, wouldn't work, right? Janemba wouldn't be able to do that anymore. So, you've got an inability to attack Giratina with, like, punches and kicks. You've got an inability to manipulate space around you and whatnot, right? So you might think, well, Janemba is kind of screwed here, right? Because, half of its offense is limited. Well, that's the unfortunate part about this. I don't believe Giratina really has a way to kill Janemba. Even if we're ignoring, like, power scaling, because don't forget, like, even though Pokemon have stats and you have to compare them to other Pokemon with stats to scale them, Janemba, or Giratina, is, fighting, or at least, like, comparable to other demigods that control space and time, right? So, to say that, like, okay, well, Pokemon scaling versus DB scaling, the fight's over, that's not really completely accurate, right? But I don't, like, considering Janemba fought Goku and Vegeta, like, and wasn't really killable. I mean, all of these attacks that they were using were hurting it, but it wasn't, Janemba wasn't, like, getting killed by any of them. It was regenerating all the time. The only time that it didn't was when it couldn't, because of the nature of the attack being used against it in the Stardust Breaker. Or the Soul Punisher, or whatever you want to call it. And I think it's probably better that we refer to it as the Soul Punisher, because that kind of accurately suggests why it's able to kill Janemba. As far as we're aware, Giratina does not have a move that is capable of destroying a soul. The closest thing I could think of was Destiny Bond, but Giratina would have to lose to use it, like, for it to take effect, which would mean the best thing it can hope for would be a draw. But that's not, again, I don't even know that would work. A draw with Destiny Bond is certainly a possibility. I just think a majority of the time, Giratina's not going to have a way to kill Janemba, and, like, just through war of attrition, probably, Janemba would end up winning. I mean, Giratina is incredibly defensive, at least in its regular form, but even in its origin form, it's, like, still got good defenses. It's just a matter of, and like I said, an immunity to, like, being regularly attacked and the ability to shut off Janemba's, like, greatest, attribute is great, considering how many attacks it has that are based on, like, using dimensions. Like, I believe the sword can even cut through dimensions, and its attack in Infinite World was it, like, breaking a literal barrier of reality in, like, glass, and then using the shards to cut you. So, I mean, like, that's a huge part of its offense, but it still has, like, energy blasts and the ability to manipulate its own body and whatnot, which, I mean, yeah, Giratina might be able to evade, but... And also, Giratina's got the ability Pressure, which is going to make it harder for Janemba. Like, it's going to make Janemba use up more energy, but I don't think Janemba has, like, a limitation of how much energy it has, to be honest. Like, I don't believe... We've never seen Janemba have to fight through, like, a war of attrition. We've never seen Janemba get, like, tired. So I would have to think, just by the nature of what kind of being it is, it probably doesn't. There is the Super Janemba from Dragon Ball Heroes, but that's actually... That's Dr. Wheelo, like, combining the DNA of some other creature. So that's, like, a completely different entity at that point. That's not Janemba. That's a different thing that was fused with Janemba. So, but it wasn't the same Janemba, so it's, like, a different thing altogether. But I mean, yeah, like, just, like, I ask you, this is going off topic here, but, like, would Goku or Vegeta be able to kill Giratina with a Ki Blast? Eventually, I feel like they would. So why wouldn't Janemba be able to win through War of Attrition? That's the only... And that's kind of upsetting, and you know what? I don't particularly like doing fights like this, where, like, one character has all of these advantages, and then they don't matter because another character just can't lose in the traditional way. It's kind of disappointing, because it's really cool that, like, a Pokemon character and a DBZ character have these weird interactions in this fight, and it looks like it's going the way of the Pokemon character, but then it just can't win. Like, that's just kind of cheesy to me. That's why I'm very particular about JoJo's characters, I do. But, yeah, anyway, that's the episode. I think Janemba would win. Janemba would win eventually, just through power output and through War of Attrition. But, yeah. Anyway, Verbal Engine 95. See ya.